So today's title is Being Against Ourselves. And I don't know why I came up with that title since I said this podcast was going to be light, but I promise that it'll have a light, warm and fuzzy flavor. And, you know, my own couples therapist kind of brought this up to me the other day. And he said, I noticed you're against yourself right there. And it's funny because, you know, I'm someone who I crack jokes everywhere I go, but I think it masks this inner self-loathing that I do still carry. And, you know, it's funny because it's cool maybe in your 20s or teens, but in your 30s, sometimes I was thinking, I feel a little embarrassed by this. And it kind of hit me through all the work I've done in therapy and my meditation, and even when I did the Calling in the One book, that actually my relationship with my mother had the roots of some of that self-loathing. And let me pause and make it clear, I'm not blaming everything on her. But what I realize is it is okay if my perspective of what happened is different than hers. And, you know, looking back, there were so many key moments growing up where I naturally expressed my emotions and they were immediately shut down. I can clearly remember in, I think it was like 10th grade, my boyfriend broke up with me and I was tearful in the car ride home, and my mom said, "Why are you crying?" And I literally said my boyfriend broke up with me, and she sort of like, I felt like laughed at me a little bit. And I don't know if that's, you know, relatable to anyone, but I kind of feel like when your emotions are shut down like this, it's like, imagine if you were driving and then someone just pulled the emergency brake and your car stopped. It's like, okay, you're being told that you have to stop if you're in your car, and then you're going to be shaken up. You might be bruised. You might even be like seriously injured. And I kind of feel like there's a similar through line with when someone does that to your emotional experience, when you're saying, I'm sad, this is real to me, and someone's like, ha ha, no, it's not. So that's just something that came to mind around that. The other thing on this is just another example of being against ourselves is I did this Peloton class, and the instructor said, babe, it's time to take it easy, babe. Like, that's how I talk to myself sometimes, don't you? And I was in the class and I just laughed out loud. I'm like, no, I don't actually talk to myself that way. My instinct is not to support or soothe myself. Now, I might be able to do that for other people, and I'm fairly good at it, but when it comes to doing that to myself, that isn't my gut instinct. So anyway, I'm just bringing this up about the idea of being against ourselves, that I think it's a continual journey of, when we say like self-love, self-soothing, I don't think we come to a point like in our mid-30s, late 30s where we've just so loving towards myself. I think there's still more to uncover about why it is we treat ourselves a certain way. And through that, we can find more self-compassion. So when I thought about how it applied to the relationship with my mom, what I was thinking about is it was a general lack of modeling. There wasn't really anyone around that was modeling like how to be kind to yourself. Now, she may have been very hardworking and other things that I do admire, but if we haven't had a role model like that Peloton instructor, is just such a funny visual of like, be kind to yourself, babe. Don't you talk to yourself like that? Then how are we supposed to do this for ourselves? So I think that as a result, it's harder work. If you didn't have that given to you, it's just harder work to be self-loving. And I know that it's been a lot of work for me, at least. And again, I think I'm trying to take myself off the pedestal. And sometimes people are like, oh, you're a therapist, you should just have it all together. And actually, I think sometimes just because you logically understand something doesn't mean you're the best at it. And I think that one of the ways I have been able to access a little more self-compassion or self-love is actually in self-compassion meditation. It takes me a while to kind of sink in to being quiet, to being still. And then I sometimes do hear sort of an internal voice that feels kind. And it kind of usually comes in the form of, I'm sorry that was happened and that was hard, or I see that you're trying to be good. It kind of comes in acknowledging what is hard, as instead of being like, you're great, you're wonderful. That doesn't really feel sincere to me, or I think to most people. But I think when the things that you go through that are challenging are acknowledged, that can lead to a lot more self-love. Because I think if those moments we soothe and tend to in a nicer way, then it's generally where we get the movement about feeling more self-loving in general. So just thought that was an interesting topic, and thanks for listening.